But let's get into this show.
Yeah.
Home Movies is one of my favorite television programs of all time. And before BoJack Horseman, I cited it as my favorite. And this, for this podcast, is, I believe, the fourth time I've watched it in its entirety. It's all on Hulu right now, and I think maybe on Adult Swim and Amazon, but, free on Hulu. When I first watched it with Nina, it was on Netflix, but, that contract expired. It is very much not a show for everybody. I think it's very alienating, I think, for a lot of reasons, and the numbers reflect that. The show did abysmally in its initial run. In its initial run, which was the first 5 episodes on UPN, it had record-setting low ratings, like truly terrible. They got a call from the studio saying, we have never had numbers this bad, and we're UPN.
Yeah, I was about to say that's impressive. For UPN.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a now defunct network. Weren't they the ones that combined with the WB to make the CW?
Yes. I was gonna explain that to the young people who may be listening, but yeah.
Well, first we'd have to explain what cable television is.
Yeah, it ran for 5 episodes on UPN before being pretty viciously canceled, but then picked up by Cartoon Network for their in development Adult Swim block, because there was one person working for them, a woman by the name of Khaki Jones, who really liked it. And if it wasn't for her, the show never would have happened more than those 5 episodes, because she was the only executive who believed in it. The show very thankfully got 4 seasons for a total of 52 episodes.
Yeah,
before
what a
being
good run.
Yeah,
it was canceled.
That's a pretty solid run for a show this obtuse.
Yeah.
For a show this obtuse and unmarketable and everything. At the beginning of the 4 seasons, before they started production, they knew that they were getting canceled. And the guy was like, no matter what the numbers are, it's not coming back. The show is created by Brendan Small and Lauren Bouchard, who have, after the show, gone on to create some pretty successful stuff. Lauren Bouchard, we've talked about. He created Bob's Burgers. And less successfully, Lucy, Daughter of the Devil. But he made Bob's Burgers, and that's very important.
I mean, we did episodes on both of them, so...
And a lot of the cast of this is also in both of those shows. And then Brendan Small went on to create Metalocalypse.
Yes, a very well-written show, but not your cup of tea if you don't have a ironclad stomach.
Yeah. And also some degree of appreciation for heavy metal and its culture.
The show does make fun of heavy metal, but
yeah, absolutely.
It's
a loving parody, absolutely.
Yeah.
Heavy metal is fucking stupid, and the show knows that and loves that. I say that as someone who loves heavy metal. I've seen Iron Maiden live. It's so dumb. But, so this was both of their first times, creating a show. They met in Boston. I think Bouchard may have been working on Dr. Katz? Yeah, he was a writer and producer and editor for Dr. Katz, which, Small was a fan of at the time, and they met through the Boston comedy scene. And the cast is a very small group of players who do a lot of incidental roles, and it's basically just comedy friends of theirs and people who also worked on Dr. Katz. The main cast is, Melissa, Brendan, Jason, McGurk, and Paula. 2 of those are John McGurk, who is on Dr. Katz. Melissa is played by John Benjamin, yes. Melissa is played by Melissa Bardengalski, who is the assistant to Jonathan Katz, who is also in the show as Melissa's father. Janine DeTully, who played Paula Small, I'm not sure where they knew her from, but she replaced the original voice of Paula, who was Paula Poundstone, who left after the initial 5 episodes. And I haven't watched it again. I'm kind of glad, because I think Paula Poundstone definitely brought her signature energy to it. It's just kind of an exhausting energy. I think it would have been interesting to see how that version of the character developed
Yeah,
as the show
let's see
went on.
that
'Cause
B universe where Paula Poundstone never left.
all the characters developed as their actors played them, as their actors really developed them more than anybody else as the show went on.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, the first 5 episodes, the Poundstone Paula and the DiTullio Paula are very different characters in a lot of ways. The show looks like boiled over garbage, which is...
It got better after they left Squiggle Vision.
Yeah, the first season was in a technique called Squiggle Vision, which was also used for Dr. Katz. It's kind of like Ed, Ed, and Eddie, but even harder to look at.
Yeah, well, can I just explain like a little, like slightly more technically the whole deal with Squiggle Vision? Because like Ed, Ed and Eddie, like
it's slightly different.
It's different because they actually legitimately drew the different frames and made the lines, which made the lines wobble. Squiggle Vision is you make one drawing, and then when you put it in digitally, the program fucks it up on purpose. And so basically the intended effect is if you don't want to animate a whole lot, the squiggles will make it look like it's alive and moving anyway. It's I would call it a legitimate animation. Like I've seen plenty of well drawn animation that uses the idea of just draw it again so it's slightly different, but it's the same to kind of give the appearance of it's a moving thing even when it's stationary. But obviously Squiggle Vision, it basically turned everything into something out of MS Paint.
Squiggle Vision was, was a thing from the production company Soup to Nuts, and a lot of their stuff just wasn't especially good looking in terms of art direction. Like Dr. Katz or like Science Court, which I know I watched as a kid, but have just Swiss cheese memory about.
I don't fucking know what that is.
That's crazy that I think I finally stumped Tooch. Fucking count it.
Fuck,
Whoa.
I've never seen this in my life. It just looks like home movies, but not.
It's children's programming. It was about science or something.
Was this like Canadian or something?
Science.
Yeah, starting with season 2, they switched over to Flash, which allows for a much cleaner look and allowed them to do more stuff with it. Because although they didn't do a lot with it, because their budget was very limited, the whole thing was animated domestically. It did allow them to occasionally go to some cool places visually in a couple of episodes.
Yeah. Our friend of the show, Jake, who did our episode about Utna with us, as soon as he watched the first episode, he messaged me frantically and was like, "Why does it look so bad?" I'm so
The other thing is that
confused.
the art direction is kind of deliberately whacked. They're like, everyone's sort of a crapped out cartoon man. They're all very asymmetrical, and like some characters have noses and some don't, and everybody's clothes are monochrome and they cover their hands and feet, so everybody looks like they're wearing footy pajamas.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I mean, at first, obviously, it was just a matter of like ease, I guess. Like, so they just like made their bodies a solid color or whatever. But then, like, as they got further into the show, they made it kind of canon that everyone in universe is wearing footy pajamas, because whenever they get super fucked up, like, there's real hands under their sock hands. Like,
Yeah.
if Coach McGurk burns his hand, there's a human hand under that color. It's fabric. This is a conspiracy at the highest level.
It's not a good looking show, and like when I was the first one in my family to watch it, when I was showing it to Nina and Lucy, it's like, you gotta check this show out, it's hilarious. I'm gonna warn you, it's very ugly. And both of you said, well, I'm a real visual person. And like, no, please watch it. And, and it worked for both Nina and Lucy right away, because it's, the writing is so good. And let's talk about the writing, because it's, kind of not writing in the
Technically
traditional sense.
non-existent.
Well, the first season wasn't.
First season, the entirety of the show uses a technique called retroscripting, which is basically to say that the actors improvise the majority of the dialogue. There is an outline script which were written more and more intensely as the show went on, and often abandoned when it actually came to record it. But yeah, season 1 had almost no script. In later seasons, they did write scripts, especially for like the more set piece oriented moments.
Because I noticed it whenever there would be like a visual joke.
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, well, obviously that had to have been scripted.
A lot of the visual jokes, I was listening to the commentary on season 4 because, I think last year or maybe the year before, Nina bought me the season 4 DVD box set. Why only season 4? Because it comes with the soundtrack CD, which I needed. And I was listening to the commentary by Small and Bouchard, and they said a lot of the visual jokes were just done by the animators.
I believe that, yeah. I mean, because that's how it works.
Small said that, he was, show creator. He was, running the show, as it were, for a lot of it, but he didn't have the same amount of creative, final cut control that would exist in more contemporary shows. Because while the commentary was being recorded, he was developing Metalocalypse. He didn't actually mention it by name at any point, although I did think Bouchard said Death Clock.
Right, it was originally going to be called Death Clock.
The reason why he didn't he didn't want to say anything about it, because on the recording for the final episode, they're like, by the time this DVD comes out, your new show will be out. He's like, A, I have no idea. B, I actually suspected by the time this DVD comes out, my next show will be canceled.
Boy, was he wrong.
Yeah, I got 4 seasons and a special, and may have a 5th. I don't know that much about that, but we could talk about it when we do Metalocalypse, which we likely will. We'll see. Yeah, all the dialogue, and that is where this show excels. Visually and with animation, there's very little happening. There's the occasional great visual joke. A lot of them look kind of accidental, but it's not the selling point of the series. The plots...
I like that skunk that runs past their house sometimes.
Yeah. All the lawn gnomes for some reason.
Yeah!
Yeah, it's a running visual gag. The plots in the first 2 seasons were actually pretty chunky. They got way better at it as the show went on.
Yeah, because they had more of a script where they're like, okay.
They also learned how to do it. The reason why this show is so phenomenal and why it works and why people love it is because of its dialogue. It's got a very loose conversational style that is almost, unparalleled, or possibly unparalleled in television, especially in animation. Because it's just, 2 or 3 comedians, most of them with backgrounds in improv, just riffing in character. And because there's no script, that's how the characters develop. They were talking about that first conversation between Brendan and McGurk on the soccer team, where that was really
with
them
the tattoos.
With the tattoos. It was really them learning the characters in the beginning, and McGurk being like, you're a weird kid, Brendan, and I like weird. And that was the spark of the fact that this character, who was originally possibly going to be a one-off, it was originally written to be a one-off, just as a source of conflict for this one episode. But that's the spark of this bizarre system of mutual respect that Brendan and McGurk develop, because they're very much at odds in season 1, and then by season 4, a lot of people who write about the show call him a father figure. He's more like a shitty big brother.
He really, really is.
Well, he could be a dumpy dad. Or he's more like his father that his mother divorced than his actual father that his mother divorced, in the sense that he's just a dude hanging around.
He seems like somebody who should be divorced, but he's so terrible he never got married the first time.
Their relationship is almost unparalleled, because you're right, it's not necessarily a father figure, it's not necessarily even a brother figure, but it's not even necessarily a friendship. It's just these 2 people who, for all, objective evidence, shouldn't be able to hold a conversation. One's this the deadest beat, man, down on his just coaching elementary school soccer. He should have been fired forever ago. And this 8-year-old.
Yeah, they're just these 2 weird losers who are largely unliked, but kind of find some common ground.
They're their only common ground is both of them have no reason to be neither of them fit into their age demographic, really.
And both of them hate soccer.
Yeah.
Well, Brendan's, especially once the second actress took over for Paula, you could sort of see how his would have come from her. I love their relationship, Brendan and his mom.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It is a delight to watch just how like smooth and like casual and witty their conversations are with each other, and like so clever, and like it makes you want to be that clever when you talk to people.
Yeah.
It honestly, like, even as a kid, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like my relationship with my mother, because even as a kid, like we always talked very like one-on-one with each other whenever we could. It reminded me of that. I really liked their relationship. Like, it was almost accidental, because it's like Brendan. I really feel like Brendan's only 8 years old when Brendan Small remembers he is.
Yeah.
And that almost makes it better, because it's just these weird children who are smarter than they should be, but not in the like the really obvious cartoon way, like not in the Lisa Simpson way.
Well, they're like in the Charlie Brown way.
Like when did Jason read a book on Scorsese?
Yeah, exactly. They're like modern Charlie Brown kids.
Why does Brendan know who Bruce Boxleitner is?
They're more movie literate at 8 years old than I am now.
Yeah.
And that's actually the titular hook of this show, is that the three kids, Brendan, Melissa, and Jason, make movies in Brendan's basement, which are they're amazing in their own way. Like,
yeah.
I mean, all the sets and costumes and everything are just cardboard and scotch tape, and
They're basically sweeting.
What?
Sweeting, when you sweet a movie, like from that movie that no one watched, but that thing kind of became a meme, Be Kind, Rewind.
Okay. Yeah.
When they made shitty cardboard versions of movies because they blanked all the tapes in their rental store. It looks like that.
And, you know, they've got one, like, pretty basic camcorder, and in the beginning, no editing means at all, so they have to shoot everything in sequence. But, you know, they just love making movies, and they make stuff in every genre. They've got this huge, like, movie literacy to pull from. And some of their stuff is, like, actually amazing. Despite how rough around the edges and, like, clearly made by children. In a lot of ways, made by children.
Everything with Dwayne in it is, like, a really good movie that they made. Like, Timmy, and of course, Kafka.
The thing with Dwayne is that Dwayne is kind of like this show's Rolf. Rolf is the only Muppet who is actually good at what he wanted to be good at, and Dwayne is an amazing musician.
Yeah.
God,
bad
Dwayne's
at
really
talking, though.
Like, Dwayne's dialogue gets me every time. I don't care about report cards. I only care about guitar.
But then, like, he can't talk, but he can sing.
He's an amazing singer too.
Yeah.
Brendan Small also did all the music for this show. He said, like, mostly in his apartment on Pro Tools, and he was talking on the commentary. He feels like everything he did here was just crapped out. But
that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very on brand with the rest of this show. Is that the whole thing looks and even feels crapped out because, you know, the dialogue is so loose.
Because again, they had no editing. Their music was played live.
Yeah.
Dwayne and his band were off camera, sometimes on camera, playing the music while the movie was happening.
The equivalent of an old silent movie where there was a person on
a piano
going ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. It's that stuff. But yeah, his band Scab, or maybe Scabe, I don't know how an A with an umlaut is pronounced. They're amazing.
Probably they're the best thing. Their Franz Kafka rock opera.
Of course.
I dug the show from the first episode, but that's when the show was like, okay, this is something phenomenal.
That show taught me who Franz Kafka was.
More so as the show went on, the movie that they made thematically paralleled the problems that Brendan was facing. The thing about Brendan, he's a very creative kid, but his ego is out of control. Mm-hmm. He doesn't take criticism well. He doesn't take outside editing well. He's an auteur, but he's 8, and he films everything in his basement with 2 friends.
Yeah, watching this again gave me a really different, just a interpretation of Brendan's character. Because like I was younger when I watched this. I watched this on Adult Swim when it first dropped, and like I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know my exact thoughts and interpretations of what was going on, but like, it was a cartoon about a kid who's doing shitty in school. Like I'd seen that before, and I kind of compartmentalized it as that. But like knowing what it is now, because as a kid I didn't know what improv was. I just thought like, wow, this is really weird, goofy dialogue. But then as soon as I started watching it, and it wasn't even that I forgot. Like I remembered all the dialogue, but watching this again, I just sort of had this giant moment of like, oh fuck, this is all clearly improv. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But like Brendan's whole like I'm really bad at school shtick, it always like it really gave me this sense of like, for some reason, just like, man, I feel like I'm kind of worried for that specific reason about me being a future parent, because the whole time I'm just like, Brendan, none of this matters. It doesn't matter. Like everybody's telling you school and homework's important. It's not. You're fine.
Yeah, like his mom gives up most of the time. Like she tries, but she doesn't try that hard.
Yeah, she basically just like does it because that's what's expected of you as a parent to do. Like, come on, you gotta do homework. I mean, like it's it's important, for just stuff.
And because she doesn't want to get freaked out at another parent-teacher conference.
Oh yeah, no,
she does really bad under pressure. She thought it was basically an interview determining how good of a parent she was.
Oh man, and I mean, like when it cuts to the PTA conference, that's what it felt like.
I mean, it kind of is like that.
Swearing. But speaking of teachers, I really like how they I didn't realize until my second time viewing the whole shebang this time around that like it really took them a minute to develop Mr. Lynch as a character, but I really love what they did with him.
Yeah, they turned him into a crazy cat man.
Yeah, he's like so weirdly eccentric. He's not all the way eccentric, but he is. His relationship with McGurk, like, well, Lynch is just as much of a social pariah, but he's got a leg up on, but he's not as much of a fuck up as McGurk.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Lynch barely has his shit together, really.
Yeah. He's got 5 cats.
What are their names?
That means he has 6 litter boxes in his house.
Angelico, Mumu, Sanchi-san, Mr. Twiggles, and there's something else that sounded like Angelico, and the commentary Small was like, it was really fun to make him say that stupid shit. Writing is a prank you play on actors.
Okay, wait. Okay, I got it. Mr. Lynch's cats. Thank you, Home Movies Wiki.
Yeah.
Angelico.
Fernilico.
Mumu, Senior Twiginski,
yeah,
and Sanchi-san.
When they get out, it's like, man, I bet you wish I bet you regret giving them those dumb names now that you have to yell them out loud.
God, that whole episode is pretty great.
And the dogs. And in that episode, McGurk just has a Zen garden.
Is that the one with Alexandra?
No, that's in season 1. This one's in the one you're thinking of, Tooch, is one with Honky Magoo. Which is actually based off of Small's real dog, Ernie, who... At the time he got in, he was like trying to train this dog because he was living alone. And he's like, I love this dog, but I also kind of hate him because he's insufferable.
As soon as I saw the Honky Magoo episode, I was like, that's gotta be one of Nikki's favos. Because it's about a dog, and it's about a dog named Honky Magoo.
That is one of the rare exceptions where they all come up with a name for something, and Brendan's is the best. Because Melissa's name for the dog was Mr. Pickles. That's not very good. Jason's was pretty good. It was Sachimo the Trumpeteer. That's actually better. But when in the episode where they made the band, Melissa and Jason's names for the band are both amazing band names. They were Chocolate Factory and The Surprisers. Whereas Brendan's was terrible, and it's the one they went with, which is Brendan Poppins and the Chimney Sweeps.
Oh my god.
Like, as much as obviously Coach McGurk is amazing, I feel like his performance as Jason is way overshadowed because of Coach McGurk's popularity. Jason's amazing.
Jason's my favorite.
I think he's also Galski's favorite. In one of the commentaries, Melissa Galski was like, the thing I miss the most is Jason. Not John. not H. Jon Benjamin, but Jason. I miss interacting with that character.
Yeah, he's such an amazing character. He's so hard to put your finger on. How did he even come up with this boy?
He's so nuanced.
This gross yet profound boy.
This precious baby boy.
God.
I don't know. Maybe.
He's precious to me.
He's got eczema over his entire body.
I did appreciate how they made him less gross as it came out, because I can't look at that bit with the snot in the first episode. It makes me want to vomit.
Didn't he just, like, at the end of the scene, just go, people hate me?
Yes, he did.
And then, like, his parents, who we never meet.
A lot of people wouldn't guess that he's Benjamin until you hear him yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Jason bit, though, is the bit where he feels self-conscious that his parents aren't divorced.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. That's my favorite.
Brendan and Melissa, whose parents both are divorced, is like, oh, your parents are still together. That's kind of cute. Like he hasn't hit puberty yet. That's how they're talking to him.
Just,
You know, there's still hope for your parents to get divorced.
because they're both just convinced that love is a lie.
And Melissa's issues became more prominent to me this time, too, where it was like, she sort of paints herself as the voice of reason, but, like, she gets very obsessed with very specific things.
She carries herself as the quote-unquote token girl character in this cartoon that they're in, but she's patently not.
No. She's anything but.
She's a better character than she wants to be.
There is a bit of a recurring theme. I love this show. I think it's perfect. It's not flawless. And one of the things is that it's not great at carrying over subplots from episode to episode. It tries a lot and honestly doesn't do that good of a job of it. But one thing that they tried to run with is that she has trouble with femininity.
Yeah.
That was the crux of the episode Shore Leave, which is one of the highlights of the show. It's a fucking riot. And also, like, in the finale where she, like, tries to get into makeup and is just slathering it on like an evil clown.
Oh my god. Oh, I think part of it's because she also has this thing with her mom, where she's really insecure about not having a mom, like with the family tree.
Yeah, she's like, "What? Why don't you just call your mom's? What? Why don't you ask your dad about your mom? Every time I bring up my mom, he starts doing this weird thing where he laughs and cries at the same time. Well, why don't you just call her? Yeah, like I could do that."
And then she, like, creates this fantasy where her mom is Cinderella and all the dwarf brothers. Yeah, she's pretty hilarious.
And then Jason's family tree is his manga.
His ferret, Pipopo.
That's my favorite. I think that's my favorite Jason bit, is that little play he did in the episode Laser Eye Surgery, whereas Ferret Ellis Island. What's your name, sir? Popopowitz. Well, now here it's just Popopo. Where are my bags? I don't know. Get in line with the other ferrets.
America!
It's like, oh, Brendan, I think Pipopo was, I made him up, and I don't think he's a real ferret after all.
In fact, I don't even think ferrets are real. I think I made those up.
And the bit with him and the bird is great too. We were just that they were like jamming with this horrible parrot. That was also in the Honky Magoo episode. I'm very familiar with season 4 because I watched all of it 2 days ago because we had no internet. So thanks again for getting me that DVD, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to finish the show in time. And then I rewatched it again today with the commentaries on while playing Hyrule Warriors Legends. So I since I was just listening to the commentaries, I had to look at the screen even less than I normally do when watching this show. This show is 52 episodes. You can watch it in like a week. It's real easy to blast through.
Oh yeah,
it's very easy to multitask during it, because like there are good visual gags in it, but they're pretty far between, and it's not the focus of the show. I think my favorite visual gag is in the episode where Brendan becomes class president, and there's that montage of Shannon wreaking havoc. Yeah, and like he like wedgies a kid, puts the underwear over his face and then trips him, but then like he picks him up and pile drives him, which isn't traditional bullying.
Yeah. Can we fucking talk about Shannon? Because I love Shannon.
Yeah, Shannon is actually, Shannon's existence on the show is another thing that was pretty divisive among viewers. Because, I mean, Emo Phillips is pretty divisive, and that's who plays him.
Our dad hates Emo Phillips.
Our dad fucking hates Emo Phillips. Cannot stand him. And I get it. He's got an annoying voice. You gotta really be into it. If you don't know who we're talking about, Emo Phillips is the guy who plays Cuber on Adventure Time. And he's got that silly voice in everything he does. Shannon is this, like, super friendly bully.
Yeah.
He's through and through a bully, but he conducts himself with an air of professionalism and common courtesy.
He's like
very
a gangster
disarming.
or something, like an old mafia gangster where, like, there are rules and stuff, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just birds gotta swim, fish gotta fly.
I got a bully.
I am the criminal element.
Like, before we fight, do you have any allergies or any conditions that may earn you sympathy?
Tell Melissa to bring her camera. That's as my camera. Well, tell her to bring your camera.
And the fact that he would break into Mr. Lynch's car just to steal his Frank Sinatra music.
Yeah. Well, I'll be keeping a big old blue eye on you. That's gross.
And then
Lynch is such a nerd.
you know what he looks like?
What are you doing in the hallway during class time?
What was the name? His design reminds me of, what was that show about? It was that kid
Pelswick.
Pelswick. He looks like Pelswick.
I actually went back to it recently to see if it would be good for the show. It's not as good as I remembered it.
Shannon, of course, has his shining moment. And bye-bye, Greasy.
It came together. They had the script, and then it really came together when they had the idea to have McGurk drive the car on stage. And the idea that he couldn't roll down the window, so he had to sing this that was the Act 1 showstopper tune. That was definitely the best song in the show that we got to hear. And he sung it through his closed car. And the audio engineering on that was great.
Yeah. He drives it off the stage.
And it's
just a bit like you think the song is gonna end, and he's like in this pensive pose, like with his hands over his chest, and he's, you know, got this serious grimace, and there's just,
he's like trying his hardest. He's killing it. And
it's a legitimately good driving song. Because we have that soundtrack.
Yeah, he could have killed it if he didn't have the technical difficulties. But like the first song,
if you were a car
yes,
instead of a boy. We haven't talked about two very important people yet, you guys.
Walter and Perry. The Walter and Perry, like this show, I watched it in my early 20s. I'm about to enter my mid-20s, so honestly not that long ago. And this show is very formative for me for a show I watched just a few years ago. And Walter and Perry, that dynamic of these two annoying little kids who love each other in the weirdest way, and then later we learn they're like little criminals.
Oh, they're
terrible. But they're just so funny. It's just Small and Benjamin in the studio doing squeaky voices back and forth at each other. And like, it's on paper, unlistenable.
Yeah. Like, it's amazing how far those voices carry them into making them funny.
It took, like, a lot of people, a running thing they said on the commentary is that, like, there's a lot of people who say they didn't like the show until, like, the 7th time they watched it. Or, like, watched an episode. It's like, first through 6 times, I hated it equally. And by the 7th time, I liked it. And they're saying that, like, that's just what a fan is somebody who's watched it a lot. It has nothing to do with actually liking it. It's all Stockholm. But that may have been what it was for Walter and Perry, because at first I didn't like them. At first I just found them annoying.
Well, they developed over time, and then they got better.
Yeah, they first clicked with me in The Wedding, where that huge bit about them one of them carrying the other over the threshold. The bit that goes on for like, that bit's like 5 minutes long, and then all the background characters are just looking at them.
Yeah. Like, make a movie about Walter and Perry, me. Make a movie about Perry! And they get so indignant and mad, but in that squeaky ass voice. Oh, they're hilarious.
I love when they talk in unison, because it's bad unison.
Yeah!
Yeah, they don't. They're not.
You want to sign to save the big elm tree?
the petition?
Oh, it's pure gold.
Then there's the Adelbergs. Ken Adelberg and Junior Adelberg, which is just
God.
Brendan Small doing this weird pan accent.
Yeah.
It's like you can't never understand what he's saying because I can't do it. It seems like it shouldn't be that hard to imitate, but it is. Tucci,
And
you
it's
give
not
it a shot.
offensive because it doesn't sound like anyone.
They say he talks like this, he doesn't. I don't know where he's from, but he don't.
And he's kind of got his own.
I watched the show since I was like 15. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
he's also kind of got a Homer Simpson thing going on, where in every episode he's got a different career.
Yeah.
He's not just bouncing from job to job. He's in jobs that, like, you need to work your way up through. He's a butcher. He's a hotel manager. There's that bit.
He like runs he works at for like a Big Brother organization. That phone conversation they had at the end was hysterical. Cause they're just mocking these poor children together. Like, I gotta be honest, like I kind of like you. You're a funny guy. I like you too.
And Junior. Oh.
And Junior's just snapping
Yeah,
a higher pitch.
basically just
Oh no!
Yeah, they
Oh
just
no!
pick
It happened again!
everybody making fun of me.
I don't talk that much about Paula. Paula's interesting because she's a recent divorcee who feels compelled to get back into the dating world, but every time she does it, she just hates it.
Yeah.
Oh, dating's the worst.
Yeah.
I love that one boyfriend she had, Simon, which was from the same episode in which McGurk overdeveloped his pecs. It's so disgusting. Like
The A and B plots for this show are just so fucking dissonant from each other.
and then
I love it.
those were the B and C plots. The A plot was they were making the Septipus movie with Fenton, and it's the idea that Brenton and Fenton had to break up. And
Yeah.
on the same time, Paula was trying to break up with this Simon loser. He's this untraceable loser. He's such a piece of shit.
Fenton.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, we got to talk about Fenton.
Fenton is Sam Cedar, who's Sam Cedar and H. John Benjamin did like an improv show together for a long time. And he's the voice of Hugo on Bob's Burgers, and did also a couple of voices on Lucy Daughter the Devil. He can do that like really weird, annoying, squeaky voice. That's great.
Yeah. Brendan, let's make a movie film. Video film. It's a video
It's
film.
rice. It's rice flavored. Oh boy, more rice.
Shore Leave is so good because it's just him tormenting him by existing.
Say nighty-night. Nighty-night. Say nighty-night.
The best part of that episode was again Coach McGurk stealing the goddamn show, with him calling. I don't know who he called on the phone to register a domain name. I mean, but whatever. But it was at fentonsnakedmom.com, yeah. And I went, and it's somebody did it. Fentonsnakedmom.com is a website. And all it does, it's just some duder. And then all he did was like link to where you can buy home movies on DVD and stuff, which is cool of him.
The other major episode with Fenton, which was actually kind of like a crowning moment for McGurk, was his birthday party episode. Where,
yeah. Fenton, shut up.
Yeah.
Apologize to your mother. Yeah, okay, let's talk about the music in the show, because there's a lot of work put into this crapped out music, and a lot of it just doesn't make it to air. The CD is mostly extended cuts. The most egregious example of that is in that episode. There's a birthday song, which is like this crazy demented clown going like,
oh my god, this birthday
happy
song
birthday, doodly-doo, a ding-dong doodly, doodly-doo. That song is in the episode for maybe 2.5 seconds in the background, and there's this 90-second absolutely demented song on the CD. And
It's amazing. Nikki always plays it for us on her birthday. And we never see it coming for some reason. It never ceases to be hilarious.
For the first couple of times, you're like, what the fuck is this? You forget every time because it's so weird.
It is bizarre.
Tooch and Nina, did you notice a recent Money Zone on Mabim Bam was them making them say that song?
I haven't listened to Bim Bam in a long time since I started.
It's like they made him say "Happy Birthday, Ding Dong Doodly Doo." Cake and open up your presents. Cake is too, and they're like, "What the fuck is that?" We've read some shit. We've read some Manchurian Candidate shit.
Who?
Yeah. But the music is like actually really good. Like the Kafka stuff is great.
And Timmy, you guys remember Timmy?
Yeah. Although they were saying like.
Yeah.
Small was saying, like, The Who's one of my favorite bands, and visually we captured Tommy a lot. Like, Dwayne in there plays a pretty serious analog to the Acid Queen. But he's like, I don't know why I didn't make this sound like The Who. This sounds like shitty Genesis.
Yeah, I don't know what they sound like. It sounds like their band.
The Timmy bit was also the best animation in the entirety of the show.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It's actually ludicrously good. I mean, by the show's standards.
Yeah.
But even then, like, there's like a bunch of layers and stuff.
And then there's Brendan's real dad, played by the not quite blown up yet Louis C.K.
Yeah, when I saw it was Louis C.K., I was like, what? And then I listened, I was like, of fucking course that's Louis C.K.
He looks
Holy
like him.
Shit. He does. He looks like him,
I mean, you just
too.
gotta make him draw a redheaded schlub, and it's like, yeah, that's Louis C.K.
Playing a really, like, I mean, I don't know. That's another thing. That's the reason I didn't get, like, I guess because when I think of, like, Louis C.K. characterized, I just think of, like, Louis. I really liked Brendan's dad as a character.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy. And I like how they had a pretty good relationship. Like, the first season, like, had a lot of this anxiety about Brendan's dad. And then he met him, and they're like, oh, he's just some guy. I mean, I hang out with adults all the time, apparently.
Yeah, they hit it off pretty well, but there was anxiety on both of their ends trying to make
it. It really came to a good end when they both kind of realized, like, oh, I can just be whatever around him. I don't have to try. Like, both of them just stopped trying.
Yeah.
Can we stop going to the zoo?
Can we go somewhere other than the zoo? It's the only place, like, you bring kids to the zoo. He didn't know how to be a dad.
And then his,
fiance and then wife, Linda, played by Laura Silverman, who played a lot of, one-off roles, like Lonnie and, Gwen in the Sensitivity improv episode.
I like that an improv show had an improv episode.
And that was shitting on improv, because, like, improv is so easy to be just unbearably bad.
And most of the time, it is.
Yeah, most of the time it really is. You really have to be good at it, and what makes, the retro scripting of home movies work is that it's still edited. Actual improv on stage is, very much one-shot mom spaghetti kind of affair. Cause it's on stage. There's no post-production. Whereas here, like, if they could come up with a joke, fuck up the initial delivery, and then do another take that's better.
Yep.
So you get the best worlds of improv, the spontaneity of improv, as well as like the ability to pick and choose the shit that actually works.
Yeah, like,
I think my favorite improv moments of the show is when they're, like, clearly, like, breaking up, but they just keep going. Like, Melissa's dad,
does it a lot.
Like Jonathan Katz, he 100% of his dialogue was him out of character laughing. I loved it. All he did was make dad jokes and laugh.
I saw an improv show before, and it tends to lose quality as it goes on. I feel
that's why, like, probably the ultimate example of improv comedy was, I mean, when everybody thinks of improv, they probably think of Whose Line Is It Anyway? That's why all their skits were like 30 seconds.
Yeah, because it doesn't last very long. You lose steam. And there's all these rules and shit. Like, this improv almost feels like riffing. Like, these are just friends.
They were just
funny.
It's objectively funny people having, like, a leaded conversation. Like, okay, like, this is your situation. Like, you get, like, here's where you're starting and here's where we want you to end. Like just
Yeah,
just
and they're
go.
always improvising with inside the same character. Like people have asked Small, like, how do you come up with Coach McGurk? And he's like, I wish I could take credit. It's 100% H. John Benjamin. He just made it up.
Yeah.
The Chiquita banana.
And again, Jason is a more impressive character he created.
Yeah. He's because McGurk is a very John Benjamin character, whereas Jason is very unique.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot. Like Benjamin in like all of these shows he's in, and like he does other roles, but like a lot of people miss it because everybody's so hyper focused on the main character he's playing.
Because his normal voice, there's this inscrutable quality to his regular voice that is inherently hilarious, but not in a way that's immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like his voice is so like recognizable that you would think he wouldn't have actual range, but really that's just sort of like the go-to character he does. But like he can do other stuff.
I bet a lot of people who watch Bob's Burgers don't know that he's also the voice of Jimmy Jr., which is similar to the Jason voice, but has its own unique quality. And actually, in a recent Bob's Burgers episode, he played another character that is 100% the Jason voice.
A lot of people don't know that Tina isn't voiced by a lady.
Yeah.
Or Linda. A lot of people watch Bob's Burgers don't really know these things.
A lot of people who watch Bob's Burgers don't know shit.
Calling you out!
Bob's Burgers fans, you have great taste, but don't even comprehend why.
I mean, we're halfway there. It's fine. How are we doing on time?
It's been okay.
Right.
I mean, I know you really want to talk about the ending.
We can wrap. We can start to wrap it up.
Well, I gotta get into we gotta get into the finale.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we'll use the finale to wrap it up.
All right.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So we can get into
now I want to talk about the finale because now I know I'm prone to hyperbole. I use hyperbole more than anyone else in the world, and it's something I'm trying to be more self-conscious about.
No,
that's one of my favorite jokes I've ever made, actually. So fuck you.
You scamp.
Good.
I want to say that the finale of Home Movies is the best piece of television I've ever seen. It's brilliantly tragic. Like I said earlier, they wrote the entirety of the fourth season knowing that it was going to be the last season. And it comes through in a lot of the episodes in certain ways. A recurring theme that's not hammered home super clearly, as with all recurring themes in the show, is Brendan's growing disillusionment with what he does. The episode with the Skunk Scouts where they're trying to sell the Wizard's Baker is another thing where he's just tired of doing this. But the finale is this amazing treatise on the nature of creative endeavor in the face of poor reception and public failure. It's the kids are showing their movies to a focus group of Fenton, Walter Perry, and Junior Adelberg, and they just hate it. They unilaterally hate everything about it, which reflects, the way that the show was received. The show, and this can't be stressed enough, nobody watched it or liked it at the time. It was supremely unpopular. I mean, the world wasn't ready for it, and also it's just an acquired taste no matter what. So the episode is a top-to-bottom meta-narrative about the writers of this show dealing with this thing that they've spent so much of their lives working on, that they're very passionate about, that they've put so much of themselves into, that nobody likes or even cares about. The grill that McGurk is trying to build is the same thing. On the one hand, it's just McGurk getting this project into his head that he needs to build a grill for a family that's not his, to the point where he moves it to their backyard. But at the same time, it's this overly ambitious project that nobody asked for, nobody wanted, and nobody cares if it succeeds or fails.
Yeah.
And it's also about, Brendan saying, because they're trying to come up with an ending for their first movie when they made when they were kids. And just the
they're not
finale.
Kids now, apparently.
Yeah, they made when they were little kids.
When they were babies.
And the finality
babies.
of it, being something of a burden, being the difficulty of putting it all to bed. McGurk's just like, put the grill in the movie.
And they did.
So they do 3 endings, and the most striking one is Brendan's, where it's like easy triking. It's about a biker gang, but they're little kids on tricycles. And what they do is that they quit their life of the road and they build a house out of their bikes and the grill and assorted garbage. And they're like, well, this is our house. It's not nice to look at and its function is debatable, but it's ours and we made it and we love it. And then they're like, together we are strong and everything. And which again
on
is the
this
creators
rock
saying, like,
solid bed of garbage.
yeah, and that's the creators, trying to take pride in what they did. It's like, obviously this is very rough around the edges, but we made it. We succeeded in making it, and we had fun making it, and we like what we made. And then immediately, the focus group throwing rotten fruit and garbage at them, saying it's just irredeemably terrible. And then there's this moment of reflection where the kids are watching their old movies and Brendan says, guys, I don't think our movies should be watched ever. They're not good. I don't know why we keep doing this, but we do. We just come here every afternoon and we do it for no reason. I guess just for ourselves. We're a bunch of weirdos. And that scene sums up the creative process so brilliantly, because a lot of stuff that talks about the creative process will talk about how it's very, very difficult and very draining, but ultimately rewarding. And this show, this episode touches upon that, but then comes to the conclusion. It's like, sometimes it fucking isn't. Sometimes you spend 5 to 6 years of your life busting your ass on this show that is universally reviled. They were making shit money off of it. They didn't even have that kind of, compensation for it. And, as an artist, you want to be able to say that you can make the art for yourself and not worry about feedback. But it's fucking hard to do that in the face of overwhelming negative feedback. Like, not to compare a television cartoon on TV to this dumb podcast we do, but like, I love making this podcast, and I know you guys love making this podcast too. These are conversations that we would have normally if we were all in the same room together. So something we would do anyway. But like, if nobody liked this podcast, I want to say that we would still do it, but it would be harder to do.
I wouldn't have volunteered to edit it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made stress for myself to do it.
Yeah, that's the
I probably
thing.
would have lied when saying I watched half the stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's because this, we get a response. It's small, but it's dedicated. That's what when I talk to people about this, we don't have a huge following, but the fans we have really like us, and that's, that feels good. We're a lot of people's,
really.
We're a lot of people's favorite podcast.
We need validation, but very little. We're not asking for a lot.
No.
And this is just for a podcast, but to imagine making an animated show for 4 seasons with next to no validation. That's difficult. That's draining. And it's not surprising that they would come back and say, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. This was a waste of our goddamn time, and we don't care anymore. And as somebody who loves this show so much, that's really tough to watch. Because the whole episode is very bittersweet, but I absolutely get where they're coming from. And it's heartbreaking to me to see that they have to feel that way. They felt that way in the moment.
Yeah.
In the commentary that was made obviously a couple of years afterwards, they're very self-deprecating about it in kind of a jokey way, but they're very harsh on themselves. Obviously very aware that nobody watched the show at the time and it was critically panned. But even with that distance, they're still, they still don't say like, oh, this was a phenomenal they don't feel like they were victimized at any point. They've I don't know if it's that they've internalized criticism or if it's a self-critical eye or whatever. But they think that what they did was good, but they don't feel like they got robbed in like completely fucked, like that the public, screwed them and everybody's, a simpleton or whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much nuance to that episode. It was written mostly by Small, but obviously, the dialogue was improvised.
According to
him
Small...
Yeah?
Sorry. I was just going to talk about the final scene. I read some stuff about it. I don't know if he mentioned it on
I'm going to get back to that. So,
okay.
Coach McGurk lights the grill. There's all this buildup, and it explodes. And then the final scene is them all burnt, driving in the car. McGurk's driving. Brendan has this camera in his hand. He's filming out the window. They hit a bump. He drops the camera out the car and it breaks. And then the car behind him runs it over. And it's a gut-wrenching scene. It hits me every time. There's this very deadpan gravity to it.
And it feels a lot longer than it actually is. Like, rewatching it, I was surprised by how brief of a scene it was.
It really comes and goes, and Brendan's just like, Ooh,
I want tapas.
It's not built up. There's no, like... There's not a big production made out of it.
Process.
It's something that happens
Brendan immediately comes to terms with it there in the van.
I noticed in this most recent viewing that he actually, like, is trying to talk in the background while they're talking about what they want to eat. He's like, got his finger raised, and then kind of lets it go almost immediately.
He's like, no one cares.
But yeah, like, the immediacy of it is really heart-wrenching. And Nina, I've been talking a lot. I think I know what Nina's going to say, but I want you to talk for a bit.
Yeah, so, when Small wrote that final scene, it seems very negative, where it's like, oh, okay, like, it's over. He's done with making these things he's been making his whole life. Small sort of intended it to be kind of optimistic, because as far as the narrative of the series goes, even though, like, as we've said, the series doesn't have a super continuous narrative, he says that, like, now that Brendan doesn't have his camera, he doesn't need this crutch anymore, and that he can actually start living his life as, like, a real person and not just a weirdo. Like, he doesn't have to hang on to this, which, I mean, does sort of reflect, like, what Nikki was talking about, where they felt like the show became, like, something they leaned on, but also a burden. And once they let go of it, they felt like they could be people and not creators of something.
There's actually more to it than that. There's a narrative that they discovered as they made the show that never came to the forefront at all. The idea is that during the divorce, Brendan's dad gave him the camera, and it's like, hey man, I know you love movies. Here you go, make some movies. So amid his family life collapsing with this divorce, the one element of his life that he had any vector of control was these movies.
Christ.
So it was so the movies were a coping mechanism for his busted-ass family life. And then by the end of the fourth season, he's built this new surrogate family of his mom, his two best friends, and his weird dad-brother coach, who really forcibly inserted himself into the family.
God, yeah.
Yeah.
The pizza club.
And Melissa too has a broken family that's kind of weird, and even Jason is consistently neglected by his parents.
Jason's family are members at a country club, so there's no way that they're a happy family.
Yeah.
And so that was the idea, is that chapter of his life was being closed. He no longer needed to make the movies because the wound that the crutch was supporting had healed. And that's something that never really comes across in the show.
Because the dad, doesn't appear in the fourth season at all.
Yeah, I don't know if it was an inability to get no, he was not in the fourth season whatsoever.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if it was an inability to get CK back because of budget stuff, or if they just didn't want to do it. The season 3 finale is Brendan's step sibling being born. Linda's pregnant and has a baby, and we never see that kid again.
Oh.
Or his dad or his stepmom.
Nope. That's the last time.
I don't know why I literally didn't even, care or notice.
I guess because the characters didn't care or notice.
It's just about the way that the show is presented is that it's so bad at carrying a multi-episode arc that when it doesn't, you don't notice. But what I did notice from the finale is that the idea of the difficulty and the futility of creative endeavors is kind of there through the whole series.
Yeah.
But it's like they didn't actively realize it until the end. Or maybe just I didn't. But it seemed, you know, you watch the show and it seems like just like episode to episode great goofs and great characters, but without a lot of a thematic center to it. But the finale almost creates it retroactively for the entire show. The finale is absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah, no.
It really is. And you, it's strange because like because the last shot is the camera just broken on the side of the road, flipped over, just filming for no reason, just going.
And like all staticky and then it cuts out.
Yeah.
Because it was on when he dropped it, so it's in the process of breaking.
There's this like sense of finality to it, but also like a loss. You know?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that Small was, you know, saying that this was a good thing for Brendan's life, but it felt like he was losing something, too. But I guess that's
a huge part of himself.
That's what growing up kind of is. Like, you abandon old versions of yourself and make new ones. Kind of, you know? And you grow by killing the person you used to be.
You grow by killing.
And the things you used to like.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah, and it's tough, but it is a huge part of what growing up is. Although there is one problem with the finale, and in the commentary they pointed this out. That final scene has this really touching guitar music that's like very melancholy, very bittersweet.
And then it cuts right to the ending theme.
It smash cuts on the credits to their regular brown chicka to brown closing theme, and then like Small and Bouchard were like, "We fucked that up so bad. I directed that. How did I allow that to happen? It's a good thing we got canceled. We deserve it."
Oh.
It's such an emotional whiplash that it doesn't serve any purpose. It's awful.
Yeah.
But everything else is great.
Yeah, and it's like, I want
Because
Brendan to keep being creative. I don't want him to stop making shit.
I mean,
because like I don't know.
Honestly, you know, it's like messed up. Like realistically, like he's 8. Like once he's like an actual person, he probably will barely like. Oh yeah, I used to make like these dumb movies as a kid. Whatever. I'm gonna major in social science.
And philosophy.
Yeah. I'm gonna be a soccer coach.
He's still gonna be a fuck up.
I'm gonna be $100,000 in debt and not have any career prospects.
Woot woot.
Now there's obviously, because it's got such a strong cult following, there's been, you know, clamoring for the show to come back. And like people have asked, you know, if the DVD sales do well, is there a chance of it like pulling a Family Guy? And they said on the commentary for season 4, it's like the DVD sales are decent, they're not that good. The likelihood of it happening is basically zero.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're busy with other stuff now, so I don't even know if they would want to do it. They did joke, though, that if they were to bring it back, it would be Home Movies Babies. And, like, they came up with that idea seeing, you know, the first movie. And, like, even McGurk would be a baby the same age as them. Paula would be a baby.
And would Josie still just be Josie?
Yeah.
I love Josie's noises.
Josie's great. That was honestly, Josie was one of my like the funniest things to me as a kid. Like, cause like hearing from Nikki how bad this show did. I'm like, I was watching it while it was airing on Adult Swim and loving every goddamn episode. Like,
and wasn't it like the flagship program for Adult Swim?
It was one of the flagship programs. Yes.
For good fucking reason, yeah.
They were saying, like, with every Adult Swim show, you can see with every frame the exact amount of money they spent on it.
God, but just like that, like things I vividly remembered about home movies before rewatching it now, so many years later. God, at this point, like, no matter what season's over a decade. Christ.
Yeah, the last season was 2004.
And so I remember I always laughed at Josie's baby noises. I always regretted that she wasn't in the show more. I laughed at I always remembered Coach McGurk just mumbling to himself about that stupid old sausage. This sausage it's old enough to vote. It could go to war and die for its country.
So there's no money? Nope, sorry, he didn't leave you any money. Well, give me some money.
Oh my god.
He took an 8-year-old kid who he is not in any way a legal guardian of to see a dead body.
Road trip!
Oh,
Well, at least he got to see a naked woman. But it was, Fenton's mom was like a gross old lady. So? I think that if you're interested in comedy, like, this show is, I think, when it comes down to it, very much comedy for people who are themselves very funny and always looking for the joke.
Well, which is why we like it, man.
No, I think it really is why we resonate with, because whether or not we're funny or not, we're always trying to be funny. We're always trying to find the funniest possible angle of any situation. We're very fascinated by comedy and good comedy dialogue. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Well, for me, I always happen to be accidentally funny.
Your approach to humor is different, Nina, but you're still very, very funny.
That
but it's
means
like,
you're the funniest.
You know,
you can just do it.
In a similar way of accessibility, like, I love to death the webcomic Achewood, and I've tried to get, like, basically everybody I know to get into it and to appreciate Achewood, and almost none of them do. Because I just think you need to have the right mindset of, like, in the background, an analytical approach to comedy of, like, always trying to find not just the funniest joke, but the strangest joke that still works.
Which word in the sentence made it funny?
Yeah.
That kind of shit.
It's literally breaking it down word by word.
It's like when you're dissecting a poem, but something worthwhile that matters.
Yeah. Although it's something that's hard to do for, like, the purpose of imitating, but, like, if you are interested in comedy and comedy writing, I can't recommend this show enough as something,
basically.
Yeah.
If you want to laugh.
Really to study. It's something really to study and learn from. And in a different way, I think Cromartie was similar to that, although they're very different shows. But I feel like if you were able to grok Cromartie's stuff, you'll like this, and vice versa. Because both of them they don't sound like something that should work on television. I think this was good stuff. I also really like the parts where violence happened to old people, like when Eric's dad kept flatlining to the point where Eric's just like, I'm just gonna go, Dad. Or Brendan beat the shit out of his grandpa because he kept taunting him.
It's a lot of morals. Take away, don't put marbles in your nose, and don't kill kids, don't run them over.
Don't put marbles in your nose is in a weird, like, 11/4 time signature.
Yeah, I that's another thing I always remembered is how weirdly paced that song is.
It's not a standard time signature. I think everything else is.
Yeah.
In the commentary, Small kept talking about, like, what the chord progressions were for the songs. I'm like, you motherfucker, I don't know. It's like, oh, it's like a 6, 5, 7, 8. I'm like, shut up!